The cold, sterile light of the research station's main laboratory cast long shadows across Dr. Ilya Kovalenko's weathered face. His fingers, calloused from years of delicate archaeological work, traced the intricate surface of the artifact. A metallic construct that defied every scientific understanding he had accumulated over decades of xenoarchaeological research. Gamma Outpost, perched on the desolate surface of Kepler 452b's smallest moon, had been a silent witness to countless scientific expeditions. But this discovery was different. The artifact was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, a crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with an inner light, its geometry suggesting intelligence far beyond human comprehension. "Dr. Kovalenko," called out Dr. Imani Akoro, her voice cutting through the tense silence, "the spectral analysis is, well, it's impossible." Elias turned, his piercing blue eyes meeting Imani's concerned gaze. She stood before a holographic display, multiple graphs and incomprehensible data streams dancing across its surface. Her dark skin was illuminated by the soft blue glow, creating an almost ethereal image of scientific concentration. "Impossible how?" Elias asked, moving closer to the display. Imani's fingers danced across the holographic interface, zooming into microscopic details of the artifact's composition. The molecular structure changes, not gradually, not in response to external stimuli, it changes spontaneously, as if thinking. The implications hung in the air like a heavy fog. Xenoarchaeology had always been about studying remnants, static evidence of past civilizations. But this artifact felt alive, dynamic, almost sentient. A soft beeping interrupted their concentration. The station's quantum communication array was receiving an unusual signal, not from Earth, not from any known human communication network. The frequency was alien, its pattern mathematical yet organic. "Are you seeing this?" whispered Dr. Rafael Gonzalez, the team's quantum communication specialist. His hands hovered over the receiver, fingers trembling slightly. The signal wasn't random. It carried a complexity that suggested intention communication. But communication of what? A warning, a greeting, or something far more ominous? Elias felt a chill run down his spine. Decades of scientific skepticism battled with an inexplicable sense of impending revelation. Whatever this artifact was, it was more than a relic. It was a messenger. "Isolate the signal," Elias commanded. "Full quantum encryption protocols. We need to understand what we're dealing with." As the team worked, none of them noticed the artifact's surface subtly shifting, its crystalline structure realigning in microscopic increments. Something was awakening, something that had been dormant for millennia. Outside the research station, Kepler 452b's rocky landscape stretched endlessly, a silent witness to the potentially world-changing discovery taking place within the station's reinforced walls. The moon's cratered surface, which had seen countless cosmic events, now harbored a secret that could redefine humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Dr. Kovalenko's mind raced. First contact scenarios had been theoretical discussions, academic papers, science fiction narratives. But this was real. The artifact wasn't just an object. It was a key, potentially unlocking mysteries that humanity had only dreamed of exploring. "Imani," Elias said quietly, "run a comparative analysis against all known xenoarchaeological databases. I want to know if anything, and I mean anything, remotely resembles this artifact." As night fell on the desolate moon, casting long shadows across the research station, the artifact continued its subtle, almost imperceptible transformation. Humanity stood on the precipice of a discovery that would change everything, a moment poised between scientific wonder and potential cosmic conflict. Little did they know, the artifact was more than just a relic. It was a herald of a storm that would soon engulf not just Earth, but the entire known galaxy. The gathering storm. The global response was immediate and chaotic. Within hours of the initial report from Gamma Outpost, world leaders, scientific institutions, and military strategists converged in a digital war room that spanned continents and time zones. Dr. Ilyas Kovalenko found himself at the center of a storm he had never anticipated. The artifact, now classified under the highest level of global security, had triggered a response unlike any scientific discovery in human history. United Nations headquarters in New York became a hive of frantic activity. Dr. Imani Okoro stood before a massive holographic display, her presentation cutting through the tension of the assembled global representatives. The artifact demonstrates properties that defy our current understanding of physics, she explained, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. It's not just a communication device, it's more like a living interface. General Victoria Rodriguez, head of the UN Xenological Defense Initiative, leaned forward. Her military background conflicted with the scientific marvel before her. Living interface? Explain. Imani triggered a series of holographic projections. Microscopic views of the artifact showed its molecular structure shifting, reorganizing in patterns that suggested deliberate, intelligent movement. It adapts, it responds, but to what we don't yet know. Rafael Gonzalez stepped forward, bringing up the mysterious signal they had intercepted. We've been analyzing the communication pattern. It's not random. There's a mathematical precision that suggests a complex language, possibly older than any known communication system on Earth. The room fell silent. Representatives from China, Russia, the United States, and a dozen other nations exchanged worried glances. This was beyond a scientific discovery. This was a potential existential challenge to humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. We need a comprehensive team, declared Dr. Alina Volkov, the Russian representative. Not just scientists. We need linguists, mathematicians, quantum physicists, and yes, military strategists. Back at Gamma Outpost, the tension was palpable. Dr. Kovalenko worked tirelessly, running countless simulations. The artifact seemed to respond to their probing, not aggressively, but with a calculated curiosity that mirrored their own scientific exploration. It's watching us, Ilyas muttered to Imani during a late-night analysis session. Every test, every scan, it's like it's learning from us. Global communication networks began to show unusual patterns. Satellites picked up interference that couldn't be explained by conventional means. Strange electromagnetic pulses appeared and disappeared, leaving no trace beyond momentary digital disruptions. The international research team grew. Brilliant minds from every corner of the globe converged at Gamma Outpost. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a quantum communication expert from Japan, brought breakthrough technology in signal decryption. Dr. Kwame Osai from Ghana introduced revolutionary approaches to xenolinguistic analysis. But beneath the scientific excitement, a current of fear ran deep. Military installations around the world began subtle preparatory measures. Defense networks were upgraded. Communication protocols were revised. The global military-industrial complex hummed with a quiet, anticipatory energy. Raphael discovered something that chilled everyone to the bone. Hidden within the artifact's signal was a complex mathematical sequence, a countdown. But a countdown to what? We're missing something, Ilyas said, staring at the artifact. Its crystalline surface seemed to shimmer with an inner light, almost like a heartbeat. This isn't just a discovery, this is a message, and I'm afraid we're only beginning to understand its implications. As night fell on Gamma Outpost, the artifact continued its subtle transformations. Outside, the desolate moon seemed to watch, a silent witness to the unfolding mystery that would soon reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. The gathering storm was just beginning, and humanity, for all its scientific brilliance and technological advancement, was about to be tested in ways no one could predict. Echoes of forgotten wars. The underground research facility beneath the Andes Mountains buzzed with an electric tension. Dr. Alina Volkov stood before a massive holographic projection, her fingers tracing lines of ancient star charts that seemed to dance with the artifact's encoded message. It's not just a communication device, she said to the assembled team of researchers and military strategists. It's a historical record, a warning. Dr. Quame Os adjusted his quantum decryption matrix, lines of complex algorithms scrolling across multiple screens. The linguistic patterns suggest multiple layers of communication. It's like a story told in mathematical code. What they discovered was beyond anything humanity had imagined. The artifact contained fragments of a cosmic conflict that predated human civilization by millions of years, a war between ancient spacefaring civilizations that had nearly destroyed entire star systems. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka pointed to a particularly complex sequence. These mathematical patterns, they're not just a language, they're a form of technological memory. The artifact is preserving a history that was never meant to be forgotten. The global research team worked in shifts, decoding fragments that painted a terrifying picture. An advanced civilization, referred to in the artifact's code as the Architects, had been locked in a millennia-long conflict with a ruthless expansionist species known as the Void Striders. Earth, they discovered, was not just a random planet. It had been a strategic point in this ancient cosmic war, a battlefield that had been deliberately obscured, its memories wiped clean by technologies beyond human comprehension. The countdown, Rafael Gonzalez realized, it's not just a timer, it's a warning system. Dr. Ilias Kovalenko leaned closer to the artifact. Its crystalline surface now seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm, responding to their discoveries. "Something is coming," he whispered. "Something that was kept at bay for millennia." Military installations around the world began to mobilize quietly. The UN Xenological Defense Initiative, once a theoretical department, now became a critical strategic command center. Global communication networks were reconfigured, satellite systems upgraded, defensive technologies accelerated. Dr. Imani Okoro made a breakthrough that sent shockwaves through the research team. Hidden within the artifact's memory were coordinates, not of distant star systems, but of potential defense points scattered across Earth and its immediate solar system. "It's like," she explained, her voice trembling with excitement and fear, "the architects left us a survival manual, not just historical information but strategic guidance." The artifact began to change more rapidly. Microscopic structures within its crystalline matrix realigned, creating complex geometric patterns that seemed to resonate with Earth's own technological frequencies. General Victoria Rodriguez understood the implications immediately. This isn't just about understanding an ancient conflict. This is about preparing for a conflict that might be about to restart. Deep within the research facility, sophisticated quantum computers worked overtime, decrypting layer after layer of the artifact's complex message. Each revelation brought more questions, and a growing sense that humanity was being prepared for something monumental. "We were chosen," Dr. Kovalenko said quietly to his team. "Not as victims, not as observers, but as potential defenders." The countdown continued. The artifact pulsed, and humanity, for the first time, began to understand that its true potential might lie not in its past, but in a future that was rushing toward them faster than anyone could have imagined. Something was coming, and this time humanity would be ready. The crucible of humanity. The first contact came without warning. It was 300 hours GMT when the quantum communication arrays across the global research network began to pulse with an energy never before recorded. Dr. Rafael Gonzalez watched in real time as impossible mathematical sequences erupted across his screens, transforming from abstract data into something terrifyingly alive. "They're here," he whispered. Massive holographic displays in the UN Xenological Defense Command Center flickered to life. What had been months of preparation, of decoding the artifact's warnings, now crystallized into a moment of terrible clarity. The Void Striders were not coming, they were already here. General Victoria Rodriguez's voice cut through the initial panic. "Hold position, we've trained for this." And they had. The artifact had been more than just a historical record. It was a blueprint. Humanity had reverse-engineered technologies that mere months ago would have seemed like pure science fiction. quantum shielding developed from the artifact's molecular structure, predictive defense algorithms that could anticipate attack vectors before they manifested, communication technologies that could potentially disrupt alien technological networks. Dr. Imani Okoro's team had developed something extraordinary, a technological adaptation protocol that could rapidly modify human defensive systems in near real time. It was biological warfare turned on its head, but with technology instead of organic agents. The first wave came not with massive battleships or overwhelming firepower, but with a subtle invasion of Earth's technological infrastructure. Communication networks began to destabilize. Satellite systems flickered. Power grids experienced momentary disruptions. But humanity was ready. "Engage quantum firewall," General Rodriguez commanded. The defense systems developed from the artifact's technologies sprang to life, a network of interconnected protective measures that could adapt faster than the invasion could progress. Dr. Ilias Kovalenko stood before the original artifact, now understood to be a kind of cosmic Rosetta Stone. Its crystalline surface pulsed with an intensity that suggested it was more than just an object. It was a living repository of strategic knowledge. "They're testing our defenses," Ilias muttered to Dr. Alina Volkov, "just like the architects predicted." The global response was unlike anything in human history. Nations that had been traditional rivals now worked in perfect synchronization. Military systems, scientific research facilities, communication networks, all merged into a single, adaptive defense organism. The Void Striders' initial assault was met with something they clearly had not anticipated, a species that could learn and adapt faster than they could attack. Quantum communication networks began to do something unprecedented. They didn't just defend, they began to communicate back. Using the mathematical language decoded from the artifact, human technology started to send complex, strategic messages directly into the alien communication networks. "We are not your conquest," became the unspoken message. "We are humanity." Orbital defense platforms, developed in secret over the past months, came online. These were not simple missile platforms, but adaptive systems that could reconfigure themselves mid-attack. Powered by technologies gleaned from the artifact, they represented a quantum leap in defensive capabilities. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka's team had developed something truly revolutionary, a technological immune system that could not just defend against invasion, but could potentially turn the invaders' own technologies against them. As the first wave of the invasion attempted to penetrate Earth's defenses, something became abundantly clear. This was not going to be a simple conquest. Humanity was ready, humanity was adaptive, and humanity was about to show the Void Striders that they had made a terrible mistake. The real war was just beginning. Technological uprising. The world had transformed in a matter of weeks. What began as a defensive strategy had evolved into something far more profound, a complete technological revolution that redefined humanity's capabilities. Dr. Imani Okoro stood in the central research hub, watching as teams around her worked with a feverish intensity that bordered on metamorphosis. The technologies derived from the artifact were no longer just defensive mechanisms. They were becoming something alive, something evolutionary. "The quantum adaptation protocol is showing exponential growth," she reported to General Victoria Rodriguez. "We're not just defending anymore. We're learning, evolving faster than the Void Striders could have ever anticipated." The global research network had become a living, breathing entity. Universities, military research facilities, private tech companies, all were now interconnected in a way that transcended traditional boundaries. National lines had blurred, replaced by a singular, unified purpose. Dr. Rafael Gonzalez's breakthrough came unexpectedly. The communication technologies developed from the artifact's core principles allowed humanity to do something unprecedented. They began to understand the Void Striders' communication patterns at a fundamental level. "It's not just translation," Rafael explained during an emergency global briefing. "We're decoding their strategic thinking, Their communication is a form of technological memory, just like the artifact, and we're learning to speak their language, not just linguistically, but technologically. The psychological warfare became humanity's most potent weapon. Instead of direct confrontation, they began to infiltrate the Void Striders' communication networks. Sophisticated AI systems, developed using the artifact's mathematical principles, could now predict and manipulate alien communication patterns. Dr. Alina Volkov's team developed what they called technological immunology, a set of adaptive algorithms that could not just defend against alien technological attacks, but could actively neutralize them. Each attempt by the Void Striders to penetrate human systems became a learning opportunity, with humanity's technological capabilities growing exponentially with each encounter. Orbital defense platforms became something more than weapons. They were now living systems, capable of real-time adaptation. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka had transformed them into what could only be described as technological organisms, defensive structures that could think, learn, and evolve faster than any traditional military system. The artifact at the center of their research continued to pulse, almost like a living heartbeat. Dr. Ilias Kovalenko began to suspect it was more than just a repository of information. It was a catalyst, pushing humanity towards a technological singularity. "We're not just defending," Ilias told his team during a late-night strategy session. "We're being prepared for something much larger." Global communication networks had transformed. What once took hours now happened in microseconds. Intelligence gathering, strategic planning, technological development, all happened at a pace that would have seemed impossible mere months ago. The Void Striders' initial confidence began to crack. Their technological superiority, something they had counted on for millennia, was being systematically dismantled by a species they had considered primitive. Humanity was doing more than fighting. They were rewriting the rules of cosmic conflict. Military strategists around the world recognized that this was no longer just a defensive war. It was an opportunity for humanity to redefine its place in the universe. The technologies being developed could potentially solve challenges that had plagued human civilization for centuries: energy production, environmental restoration, space exploration. As the fifth week of the conflict approached, something became abundantly clear. The Void Striders had made a critical miscalculation. They had attacked a species capable of turning their own technological superiority into humanity's greatest weapon. The real war was no longer about survival. It was about transformation. The reckoning, the final confrontation, was not what anyone had expected. It wasn't a massive space battle with overwhelming firepower. It wasn't a ground war that would devastate planets. Instead, it was a war of intelligence, of technological will, of fundamental understanding. Dr. Ilias Kovalenko stood before the quantum communication array, the original artifact pulsing with an intensity that seemed to synchronize with the very heartbeat of human technological advancement. Around him, the research team, now more of a unified consciousness than individual scientists, watched as humanity's ultimate strategy unfolded. General Victoria Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension. "Engage total network integration." What followed was nothing short of a technological symphony. Every system humanity had developed, from orbital defense platforms to quantum communication networks, from AI-driven strategic algorithms to the adaptive technologies reverse-engineered from the artifact, began to move as a single, unified organism. The Void Striders had always believed in overwhelming force, technological superiority through sheer power and age, but humanity had discovered something far more powerful: adaptability. Dr. Imani Okoro's breakthrough came in the final moments. The artifact wasn't just a warning system or a historical record. It was a test, a challenge left behind by the architects, a challenge to see if a species could evolve beyond its initial limitations. "We're not just defending," Imani realized, her voice echoing through the global network. "We're transcending." The communication attack was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of fighting the Void Striders, humanity began to interface with their technological network, not to destroy, but to understand, to communicate, to offer an alternative to endless conflict. Dr. Rafael Gonzalez watched in awe as the mathematical language they had spent months decoding became a bridge rather than a weapon. The Void Striders' communication systems, so long used for conquest and destruction, began to experience something they had never encountered: empathy. Dr. Elena Volkov's team had discovered the fundamental flaw in the Void Striders' technological philosophy. Their entire civilization was built on a model of perpetual conflict, of technological domination. Humanity offered something radical: collaborative evolution. The artifact at the center of the research facility began to change. Its crystalline structure shifted, creating complex geometric patterns that seemed to resonate with the global communication network. It was no longer just an object of study. It had become a conduit. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka realized the truth first. "We're not just fighting," he said quietly. "We're communicating on a level they've never experienced." The confrontation lasted mere moments in cosmic time, but its implications would reshape galactic civilization forever. The Void Striders' technological network began to fragment, not through destruction, but through understanding. Humanity was offering them a choice: endless conflict or collaborative evolution. Many chose evolution. As the final moments of the confrontation played out, Dr. Kovalenko understood the artifact's true purpose. It was never about a weapon. It was about potential, about the capacity to grow, to change, to understand. Humanity had passed the test. The galaxy would never be the same. In research facilities, military command centers, and communication hubs around the world, a new understanding dawned. This was not an end. This was a beginning. Humanity had stepped into the cosmic stage, and they were ready.